Welcome. Instead of our usual deliberations on the parsha this week, I'd like to focus on the loss that we all had this week with the passing of Rabbi Gershon Edelstein, the great Torah sage of Eretz Israel. I never met Rabbi Edelstein, and I imagine that many of you have not. Perhaps some of us haven't even heard of him. But I'd like to talk about what it means to be a sage in Israel. How does one become to be a Gadol Hador? So I came across a beautiful idea in the writings of Rabbi Matthew Solomon, quoting Rabbi Moshe Soloveitchik. The pasuk, Ani ledodi v'dodi li, Shlomo HaMelech says in Shir Hashirim, I am to my beloved, and my beloved is to me. But then the pasuk goes on and says, Haroa b'Shoshan, the one who shepherds with roses. Shepherds with roses. A shepherd often screams at his flock to get them into line. A shepherd often uses a staff to beat his sheep, to do what he wants. A shepherd often uses a sheepdog, keep his flock in order. But have you ever heard of a shepherd who uses a bunch of roses? Shlomo HaMelech is saying that Knesset Yisrael, Klal Yisrael, is comparing the shepherding of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to a bunch of roses. And the shepherds who are employed by the Ribono Shel Olam as using a bunch of roses. Why is that? David HaMelech, in chapter 45, kapitel Mem Hey in Tehillim, the kapitel begins, Lamnatseach al hashoshanim, Lamnatseach, to the conductor, al hashoshanim, concerning the roses. And Rashi, on the spot, says, what is the nature of this chapter in Tehillim? L'chvod Talmidei Chachamim, Yos Yosdu Hashir. This song was written in honor of Torah sages. Shehem Rachim K'Shoshanim. They are tender, soft, like roses. V'noim K'Shoshanim. And they're beautiful, like roses. Umartivin Ma'asim Tovim K'Shoshanim. And they are saturated with beautiful deeds, like roses. David HaMelech can find no better metaphor for Talmidei Chachamim than roses. And why is that? Because a Talmid Chacham, a true Talmid Chacham, is tender. He's gentle, he's soft. A Talmid Chacham is beautiful. He has an aura of goodness, an aura of holiness. He's a sight to behold. And a Talmid Chacham is martivim b'maisim tovim. He's saturated with good deeds. Such was the persona of Rabbi Edelstein. Saturated with good deeds. They say about him that he was accessible at any time of day or night. If somebody would knock on his door in the middle of the night, he would answer it in his pajamas. And he would sit down with the person and let the person unload his problems, and he would give advice. Saturated with good deeds. Rabbi Soloveitchik went on to explain further. Shoshanim. A person goes out in the morning to a field of rose bushes. And it smells so good. What a fragrance. And he says that actually in the morning, roses are most fragrant. And the reason is because it just absorbed the dew that fell during the evening. And the fragrance corresponds to the amount of dew that fell. It wears off during the day. Torah, my friends, is compared to dew. Tizal katal imrasi, the pasuk, devarim, lamed beis beis. Torah is compared to tal. And so the Talmud Chacham, who's compared to the rose, to the extent that he inculcates, that he absorbs Torah, to that extent he is fragrant. To that extent, people enjoy his fragrance, and people are influenced by his fragrance. How does a Talmud Chacham absorb the Torah? Derech Eretz Kodma LaTorah. Before a Talmud Chacham could absorb Torah, he needs Derech Eretz. He needs, number one, humility, which is the source, which is the bedrock of all Midos Tovos, all Menschlichkeit, all goodness is humility. Rabbi Edelstein was legendary for his humility. The Chazon Ish said 70 years ago, Chazon Ish passed away in 1953. Rabbi Edelstein died in his 101st year. He knew the Chazon Ish. He was a student of the Chazon Ish. He was already in his 20s when he was learning by the Chazon Ish. And the Chazon Ish said about him that he didn't even have the requisite pride that a Talmud Chacham should have. And he said it in a very praise-worthy way, a praising sort of laudatory way. He was a man of no pride. And he was a man of beautiful midos. He had the Derech Eretz that was Kodma LaTorah. And then, boy, did he learn. As the Talmud says, Lo Posak, Puma Megirsa. He never stopped learning. My friends, read the reports about his passing. He passed in the hospital while he was saying a shir. He was giving a lesson to some of his top students. They were there. And he just faded away in the middle of the lesson. And that's the way he was. He didn't stop his learning, but to care for his flock who came to him at all hours of the day and night with major political issues. The MKs in the Knesset would come to him, and the little people would come to him because he exuded such a fragrance of roses. And therefore, people flocked to him. And their fragrance was inculcated, his fragrance was inculcated by them. How different the Torah scholar is than the leaders of the outside world. Look at the presidential election that's heating up as we speak. Look at the front runners. Look at the backbiting. Look at the attempts to tear each other down, to puff oneself up with the political strategists, with the handlers. And if I say this in this state, what am I going to say in the next state? It's smoke and mirrors. It's sheker. It's arrogance. Not the Torah leader. It's humility. It's kindness. It's martiven, the mitzvahs tovos, saturated with good deeds. HaKadosh Baruch Hu and his emissaries, the Gedolei Yisrael, are called Roa B'Shoshanim. They shepherd their flock with roses, not with a whip, and not with a loud voice, and not with attack dogs, but with a bundle of roses, with a fragrance which comes from beautiful midos, a fragrance that comes from inculcating Torah. And this way, the Gedolei Yisrael, they influence and they take care of their flock. May Rabbi Edelstein's memory be a blessing. It will. Let's learn more about him. Let's follow in his ways. Let's develop our midos, our character, and let's learn God's Torah. And let each and every one of us be like a rose, be fragrant like a rose. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great Shabbos.